A lot is being said about a manga that launched a couple of weeks ago. A manga not only about the favela's culture, but about dreaming big. From the appraised author of Asper Kanojo, today we'll talk about Brazil's violence in the eyes of a Japanese author. Today, we'll talk about Favela no Mangaka. Here in Brazil, we love anime and manga. Not most of us, but the otaku market here is definitely okay for an economy like ours, which is a pretty shitty one. Brazil is well known worldwide for a bunch of stereotypes, like oversexualization, the looming presence of violence in the streets, and that every Brazilian knows how to samba and play soccer. These stereotypes actually cause a lot of discussion here in Brazil. Before we get into the main part, I would like to remember you guys that this whole video is basically a reflection of a Brazilian around topics like Brazil's representation, the correct use of stereotypes, and not only the recommendation of this manga, but of a few others that are 100% Brazilian. Our manga authors really need all the support they can get, and we have some really good ones. But we'll focus more on that by the end of the video. Don't forget to subscribe if you enjoy the content, and let's go! So, starting here, I don't know if I made myself clear, so I'll say it with all the words. Read Favela no Mangaka. It has a lot of potential and it tackles a lot of prominent social problems of Brazil. Oh, and even if you're not into that, this manga will have a lot of action and a unique type of art. Let's begin by talking about Hagimoto Sohachi, the author of this piece. Hagimoto Sohachi debuted his manga career with the manga Asper Kanojo, who took a lot of people by surprise, myself included. The manga is a classic boy meets girl trope, but with a twist. The girl has Asperger's. It's not a story for everybody, as the manga portrays loneliness, self-isolation, and abuse in a very real way. It has great character development, and you get amazed by how Hagimoto-sensei portrays the relationship of two people in the spectrum. From my point of view, it is a very thoughtful and respectful piece. He never glorifies mental illnesses as a topic. He made his research, created some interesting characters, and let the story flow. I highly recommend this manga as it is way out of the ordinary while being very well executed. By this introduction, you can already tell that this manga author is very respectful, and he couldn't be different on his new piece, Favela no Mangaka. Since 2020, Hagimoto Sohachi has been interacting with Brazilians and has actually been learning Brazilian Portuguese. On this letter from June, he states that he loves the Brazilian culture and that all the attention and love from Brazil motivated him to create a manga set here. Some Brazilian friends recommended him the movie Cidade de Deus, one of our most famous movies nationally and internationally. Every now and then people talk about this masterpiece, and to be honest with you guys, this movie is actually the GOAT. I highly recommend it if you've never watched it. But getting back here, Sohachi-sensei felt a lot of emotions while watching Cidade de Deus. That inspired him to try to portray a Brazilian community located in the favelas. As he knew that here we love a lot of manga authors, he wanted to connect both themes. He finishes the letter saying that he will publish the manga in Brazil too, while thanking everybody for their support. Guys, I just want to highlight that Sohachi Hagimoto has spent long hours in these past few years not only researching about Brazil, but interacting with Brazilians on social media. Up until this day, he basically uses his social media to practice his Portuguese and to bring attention to the Brazilian culture, constantly asking for help and guidance not only in the language, but with cultural questions too. The dude is just happy, interested, and curious, you know? One of the best combinations ever. It is hard that a lot of times we need a person from another country to bring attention to our culture, but it is what it is. If you stay by the end of the video, I'll recommend some Brazilian manga that I enjoy, so that you can see that we have great manga authors too. By the way, I will definitely in the future make a video about them. But for now, let's talk about the premise and the first chapter of Favela no Mangaka. Favela no Mangaka tells the story of two main characters, First, we have Hiroto Takei. Takei is a manga author considered a failure by his editor, as his art style is outdated and no author would want to use his illustrations. He started drawing manga at the age of 10. Now being 30, his achievements are not very significant in his opinion. Being cut from his manga company and getting used to make forced smiles, Takei feels that it is time to move on. He then decides to travel to Brazil, as he needs to completely innovate himself. He targeted the country which would be the most different from Japan. It is a trip to relieve his frustrations and clear his mind, to put an end to all his regrets and move on to a new life. Then he arrives here, in my city, São Paulo, where he gets to see some touristic places, as well as understanding that our cultures are very different in their essence. Realizing that the architecture is different, the colors are brighter, and even with the weather not being too hot, a lot of people here dress lightly. Here we see that Takei actually learned Brazilian Portuguese in the past, to get along with a woman he once knew. He got rejected in the end, but he loved the experience of learning Portuguese. And since he learned a bit, he wanted to use the language more in São Paulo. So after eating, he asks for directions on how to get to Avenida Paulista, the most famous street around here. While walking by, he sees there is a place that is very different from the streets he was walking on. The buildings look completely different. It's like they're separated by a boundary line. A man gets shot in front of Takei, and the shooter appears to be a kid, who runs away with a stolen bag. Some young man tries shooting back, but he's able to get away. While Takei reaches his phone to call the police, two dudes in a motorcycle steal his bag, leaving him just with his phone, with a corpse by his side. After the commotion, people just walk by, like nothing happened. Some people are even on the phone, but no one is screaming or shocked, even though someone just died. Well,
this is Brazil.
Brazil!
But jokes aside, guys, the violence problem not only in the favelas but in Brazil as a whole is a huge one. Just so you guys can have an idea, there were 41,000 intentional homicides reports in 2022. In the US, for example, in 2022, they had around 21,000. So yes, Brazil is pretty violent. Sohachi Hagimoto expressed that pretty straightforwardly. This scene is here for the impact, to show the readers what the reality of many Brazilians can be. It is a sober reality that for sure won't happen with many people from the favela, but that nonetheless will happen with a lot of people. The author is not by any means trying to disrespect us. He's trying to give the spotlight to an actual problem. But let's keep moving forward, as we're in the middle of the chapter. So, after getting robbed and witnessing a murder, Takei talks with some policemen in the area that basically ask him for some money. Like, they straight up asked Takei for a bribe. Yes guys, this is not very unusual to happen, as bribes are a common practice here in São Paulo. It's like the situations in this manga are a little bit overtuned, but I can clearly picture that happening here. After that, of course, another guy tries stealing Takei's phone. That's when a young man interrupts the bad guy, saying that the EM forbids anyone to steal from tourists, making the bad guy go away. The young boy then says that most Asian people are ignorant of the dangers of the city, and that he should be more careful. After Takei talks to his mom on the phone, he looks for the boy to thank him. That's where we have my favorite panel from this chapter. I wonder if he's still around. Huh? For some reason, I was captivated. The mountain of trash looked like part of a piece of art. We get to then understand a little bit about our second protagonist, João. João is a poor boy from the favelas that loves to draw. But not any type of drawing, no. João aspires to be a manga author. When Takei tells him that he is a manga artist, João goes crazy, saying that he really admires mangakas. Takei gets impressed by the 15-year-old boy who can draw very well. He then explains that they should continue to talk in his house, as it is not good to walk outside at night. There is currently a gang war happening between the EM and the FSL. After being welcomed by João's family, Takei catches himself thinking that the favela can be a very scary place, but that does not define everybody that lives there as scary, as João and his family are very welcoming and kind. Then he gets to see a lot of Japanese manga in João's room. From Vagabond and Berserk to Sakura Card Captors, João loves manga. But actually, more than reading, João loves to draw manga, using his life experiences to inspire himself, like drawing a samurai that has a gun and likes to pick up the garbage. As Japanese people like to clean things, so samurai should also be like that, right? He explains that there are many Brazilians who dream of becoming manga authors, and that he doesn't actually believe he will become one, but he likes to dream about it. Mangas are very expensive here, just like drawing classes, so he always rereads the same volumes over and over and tries to copy the pictures. And then he asks Takei the question that changes everything. Mas e aí, é divertido para mangaka desenhar mangá toda hora? Takei then is flooded with memories. When he was a little kid and simply loved drawing. Then he remembers about the feedbacks from his editor and how he constantly was labeled as a non-creative author, that no reader ever gave a hint that they were interested in his works. He realizes that his mind is still stuck in the past, even in a country with such a different culture as Brazil. He came here to leave his past behind, but it is just too hard. Then suddenly, another character enters the scene, João's big brother, Gabu. Gabu is a tall, handsome man with a tattoo of the gang EM. If that was not dangerous enough, he carries a gun on his waist. Well, he comes home to talk briefly with his family, then leaves. After that, Takei has dinner with João's family, and João once again surprises the man. He sees Takei smiling and says, "Ah, agora você sorriu naturalmente. Você estava sorrindo de um jeito estranho, né? Eu pensei por um momento que os japoneses tinham um jeito único de sorrir." He noticed that Takei fakes smiles a lot, showing how easily the boys spotted the difference, and that they could go along very well. The scene cuts to Gabu talking with some members of the gang, saying that it is time for João to enter the organized crime. How will this story unfold? Only time will tell. Keep supporting Favela no Mangaka for more. I for sure will. So guys, before we conclude the video, I want to quickly recommend some national mangas so you guys can look for it online. I don't know if all of them have an English translation, but search for a bit and you'll probably find it. We have Sense Life, Refábula, Escarra Brasa, Traumen, and Starmind. These are my favorite ones, but we have lots of talented authors and artists, so please support them if you like their work. And that's it for today, guys. Thanks a lot for watching until here. Keep following your dreams, support Brazil and our authors, keep being kind, and of course, keep reading manga. Bye!